welcome everyone to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is the Grumpy Old Man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
If you're new to the show, welcome. This is a twice-a-week sports podcast that takes place every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, if you're new, we invite you to stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, to like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. This is a podcast where we talk all things sports, have a good time, and shoot the shit.
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely, it is, Grump. Now, a lot to talk about this last, I don't even know, Grumpy, since last Thursday. There's been a lot that's happened in the sporting news. Some that's taken national headlines, and I'm assuming that will be talked about for, the next few weeks, and others, more just fun, haha, laughing type of items too. I want to talk a little bit first about disappointment. We had talked about the upcoming game and the matchup of the Duke Blue Devils against the Carolina Tar Heels, Grumpy Old Man, Mike Krzyzewski's last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And they were, I think, an 11-point favorite going into the game, and they lose by 13 at Coach K's last home game. I was shocked.
I think they had 83, 85, 86 former players were there. Tickets were averaging $5,400, whatever it was, a ticket. And they came out and they laid an egg and got beat by North Carolina, who's not been good this year.
Think about it. They had lost to, if you take the clock back like 3 weeks ago, they had lost to the University of Pittsburgh, and people were thinking, well, this could do in their chances of even making the NCAA tournament if they don't go ahead and rattle off a whole bunch of wins down here in the end, and they don't go ahead and go far in, the ACC tournament. But they get this quality win against Duke, the last game on the road. I think that kind of pencils them in, but they were originally a bubble team 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, they're not a good team. But, as is often the case, when you have, and sometimes we forget, right, that you're dealing with a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds. In the case of Duke, I think they only have maybe a couple who were seniors, but mostly very young men. And sometimes this is just a huge moment. I mean, maybe a little bit bigger than they had anticipated. And they came out and it was the worst defensive game they played all year. I think it was the most points that North Carolina scored all year. It was just a poor performance. And, they had a big ceremony planned for after the game as well. And Coach K came out and did like a 15-second speech saying how this is just totally unacceptable. Today's game was unacceptable. The season has been acceptable, but today was unacceptable. And he also said that we're not done yet. And you talk to some of his past players, or you were hearing from them, and they said this is going to be a tough week in practice. I think it's going to make Duke a really tough team to beat going forward. A loss like this I just want you to think about this. He's won almost 1,200 games, won 5 national championships. I want to say, except for this has to be probably one of the most, maybe not one of the 15 most important games that he played. If you think about it, coached. And you lost this one, his last one at home against your most hated rival. And you looked at those kids after the game and says, you might not think I love you, but I do. And they were like stoic. Even after all this, the accolades that came after the game, I felt bad for them. I really did.
Oh, here's the thing. I don't feel bad for the kids. I don't, right? They were out there on the game. They had direct impact on what the end result is. Here's the thing. Do I think, you talk about how somber, I think somber probably is a better word than stoic, but you talk about how somber that Duke team was and those individuals were. They understood the magnitude of losing the last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium with Mike Krzyzewski as head coach, and in the fashion they lost it in. It wasn't like it was a buzzer beater right down to the end. I mean, in the second half, they were kind of dominated, Grump.
Well, I don't know. They were with 2 minutes left. They were only down by like 4 points. So, I mean, it was still close, but here's the thing. Kudos to North Carolina, right? Think about it. When everything is about Coach K the whole week, as a coach, you have to sell that to your players. They're disrespecting you. They think you're going to roll over. And sometimes that happens, and it did yesterday. I don't think Hubert Davis is a great coach. I watched the handshake line, and when the coaches shake hands, they didn't even look at the coach of the other team. Usually it's like they stop, they talk. Even the assistant just, yeah, whatever. They didn't even look at them. I don't know if there's a hatred for Hubert Davis or what. Maybe just a disappointment. I don't know. But it was an uncomfortable handshake line. I will say that. That said,
you lose in the fashion they do. Before we get to the pluses, I think this has. I'm still shocked that the players come out there. Those are one of those games, right? You talk about a storybook ending. There should have. It wasn't like this was a fantastic Chapel Hill basketball team. You know what I mean? They haven't been fantastic in the last few years, and this year they weren't. They're not a great team. And you think to yourself, wow, the way they rolled over like that, and they got beat. It's uncharacteristic of a Coach K coach team as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I felt bad for them because you're always going to be known as the guys who lost Coach K's last home game. Unless you win a national championship, that's what you're going to, yeah, man. Yeah, I know you got to the finals, but man, you lost that last game. It was like must-see TV. Everyone was at Cameron Indoor Stadium. All the dignitaries, all this.
Prices were on average $5,500 a ticket. That was more expensive than the average ticket price for 7 out of the last 10 Super Bowls. Think about that. $5,500 a ticket. And you guys come out there and just, oh, man, I tell you.
Yeah, like I said, but practice is going to be brutal for them tomorrow, guaranteed. And here's the thing. They're going to win the ACC tournament come this week. Absolutely. Absolutely. They will not come out flat again the rest of the year.
I will agree with that. I can't promise you they're going to win the ACC tournament like Grumpy's over here doing. I will say this much. It could be an embarrassing loss like that. It could set in and sink in like, holy shit, we got to wake the hell up. We have to go on a different level. And it could help propel them to, a long postseason run here, a long run in March, trying to win, the national championship. That could be the case. It will be interesting to see how they come out and play. I do think they're going to do well in the ACC tournament. I'll be interested to see how that carries over into the NCAA tournament because that last loss, yikes, disappointment.
Yeah, like I said, I just tell you when you have a loss like that, it's going to spur you on. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have this. Here's the thing. They were by far the best team in the ACC this year. By far.
The ACC was not great this season. The ACC in the past has been very, very good basketball conference. This year, not so much. I did find it odd that they did this, the celebratory items there after the game. That is a little unique. Usually they do it beforehand. I don't know, but I'll let you watch this. This is the little 1 minute long clip they had of Coach K to honor him.
One quick thing before you get to that. The reason why they were doing it after the game is they felt confident there was no way they were losing North Carolina. They just beat them at Chapel Hill by 20 points 2 weeks ago. I mean, blew doors on them. You weren't expecting anything like this on senior night.
Yeah. Well, how many seniors does Duke basketball have, though?
Well, I had a couple.
Well, I mean, the Coach K's teams of, hey, they have a whole bunch of individuals that are seniors and graduate. Duke, it's changed, right? Over the last, what would you say, over the last like 5 to 10 years, they had switched over to more one and done or 2 years and done type of program where they had not been in years past.
I want to say the last 15 years. That's how long.
Yeah, that's in the last 5 to 10. It was after Jeff Capel moved there that kind of made that switch. You go 10 plus years down the road. They didn't have a lot of one and dones at Duke. In 2012, I think they had a lot of one and dones. That was the time period when Kyrie Irving was there. I think it was around 10 years ago, kind of right around that spot.
2011.
Okay.
I think
that was when they started switching over. That was when they started ingratiating more of a, hey, we're looking for, the top rated player. We're trying to do the John Calipari, hey, best players over and, they're going to be here for a year and we're going to try to maximize what they've got as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. Maybe it's the last 10 years, but Kyrie was the first one. And remember when they recruited Kyrie, he wasn't the prospect that he wound up turning out to be. I remember that season. he got an injury. They were phenomenal until he got hurt. And then he came right back at tournament time and just not enough. I think they got to the Elite Eight and lost to Arizona. But then you see it every year. And to me, I think the best thing about Coach K as a coach was not the one and done stuff. It was the years before, how he developed and cultivated these players as people, as well as players, and they built that camaraderie. And I think that's what was best. They were the last team to have anyone leave their school early. Back in 1992, when it was Laitler's last year. Even Grant Hill stayed 4 years. I mean, just like I said, it's just a bygone era. It's not the same anymore. That being said,
never will be.
You're right. It never will be. Correct.
Think about it. Even like when Kyle Singler, right? He stayed there plenty of years. He was a top 10 recruit at the time period. I'm just looking back through, right? Recruiting class of 2007, Kyle Singler, Nolan Smith was a top 20 guy. And then you go the year after, right? You've got Miles Plumlee, who's a guy who's, they didn't bring any top tier guys in that year, but Miles Plumlee was the highest rated player. And you go back to 2009, right? Ryan Kelly, he was there, 2-3 years? And that's when right after Kyrie Irving, you're right. That's when they kind of made that switch over to where they had a lot more of these one and done type players.
Because they saw what Kentucky was doing. It was a reaction to what Kentucky was doing. But they took it as far as Kentucky did, where it's a whole new crop of first-year players. I don't think that's the best way to win long-term, if you can maybe sprinkle in one or two of those guys. But if you can build yourself a core that stays there 4 years, I think that's conducive, like Gonzaga does, honestly. That's conducive to having continued success.
I was about to say, I mean, to get talented players, you kind of know what you're signing up for. If they're, one of the top 10 recruits or top 15 recruits in the nation, they can have a stinker year in college. They're guaranteed, though, to go pro in some capacity. That's just how it's set up now. And again, unless they make some sort of, change to the rule, that's never changing. But I do want to go ahead and show you this by Coach K, dating back to 1980, Grump.
First of all, it's KRZYZEWSKI.
He's been there a long damn time, Grumpy. Watching back to that, he's been there a long time.
42 years. 42 years. Man. I'm going to tell you what. Last year, I couldn't even tell you who won the national championship. No fans, no enthusiasm. I thought it was terrible last year. I'm into the tournament this year. I'm absolutely into the NCAA tournament this year.
You're going to be filling out a few brackets, Grump. You're going to be filling out a few NCAA tournament brackets.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, that would be fun. Maybe I'll get into it, too. Yeah, you're right. With the fans not in the stands, it was a different atmosphere last year, and it's not as enjoyable, right? It's the same thing that makes, soccer fun to watch. It just adds a little bit extra zest to it, where you just have the fans are just unbelievable. Adds a different dynamic to everything. But
as long as you don't have like the wine and cheese fans like the University of North Carolina. No, it's the kids. That's what makes college athletics the best. The kids cheering for their school.
Oh, look at you trying to take every little dig that you can at Chapel Hill. Look at that, Grumpy.
I gave them kudos for winning yesterday. That's a big win for their program.
For certain it is. That's one that you can go ahead and hang your hat on, too.
Forever.
I mean, you're talking about, well, not even forever. I'm just talking about for their head coach, as you've got to change the dynamic, right? North Carolina produces some good college basketball players. And I mean, now you're saying, all right, they kind of slipped a little bit, Chapel Hill, I'd say, over the last few years. And I think this could kind of help. I'm not going to say it's going to catapult them right back to the path they were on, but it slowly helps get them on the right path.
Yeah,
So
they have to have some winning seasons. I don't think Hubert Davis is that good a coach. They slipped under Roy Williams at the end. So it kind of is what it is. I think Duke I think they'll be better off than North Carolina was when they lost Roy Williams. But it won't be the same without Krzyzewski. That's for certain. And just a little side note, today, Tom Izzo broke the Big Ten record for most wins in the Big Ten as a Big Ten coach. He broke Bobby Knight's record.
wow.
668, I believe it is, 669.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Tom Izzo's another one of those guys from that era.
Yep.
I mean, unbelievable, Grump. So that happened, right? We talk about disappointing. I think it was disappointing, what we saw in regards to Duke. But hey, I'll be keeping a close eye on them, Grump. I know you follow Duke, and that's your team. I'll be keeping a close eye on them, seeing how they go ahead and catapult. If this catapults them to success, this embarrassing loss at home for Coach K's last game.
Yeah.
But now,
and like I said, and why do I like Duke? Like I think I've mentioned on the show before, is that Coach K was so nice to my kids when they were young. I mean, just went out of his way to be really nice to them at a book signing and, personalize it to them. And he was just so nice. A lot of these signing things, it's like, okay, blah, blah, thanks, blah, 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 thanks. He took the time to talk to them for like 5 or 10 minutes, which I thought was really extraordinary for something like that. And so we've always been fans since then. And I said to my younger son, who's a huge Duke fan, that, gosh, you know what? Because it's not the same as it was even 5 years ago at University of Duke or Duke University. So, I think Coach K realized it was kind of past that time for him. And I'm glad that he stepped down while he's still relatively at the top. So good for him.
Alexander says, hey guys, good evening. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well too, Alexander. Tony the Werewolf says, it's all right, boys. I'm here. Let's start the podcast now. Apex Legends Senior Citizen says here, Tom Brady plays next season. He's the opposite of Josh Bailey.
That's true. I remember somebody asking if Tom Brady could turn the Islanders into winners if he went on the ice. I'm going to tell you what, the more I watch how Josh Bailey's been playing, I want to say yes. I don't even know if Tom Brady knows how to skate, but I still think he could help us more than Josh Bailey.
Oh, good gracious. Switching gears a bit. Now, this is a wacky and crazy story that's making national headlines all over the place. Brittney Griner is detained at the moment. Russian officials detained her as she tried to go ahead and go through the TASS, whatever they called over there, and they found that she had hashish oil in her luggage. And currently, right now, she's detained, and they said she's facing up to 10 years in a Russian prison. Holy shit, ladies and gentlemen! Yikes!
Yeah, where do you want to start with that? I'll let you tell me where you want to start with that.
Here's the thing, right? And I think we'll say this, obviously, I'm not saying, hey, I don't think she'll serve as long as 10 years. I don't think she should serve any time. Got to be smarter than that, though. It's just not like this is your first time playing in Russia. You've gone, and maybe she has, moved hashish oil before in the past and just never been caught for it or anything like that and didn't know it was an issue. I have no idea. But this is the eighth off season in a row that she's played between Russia and China and overseas because, the WNBA should play there. And then she plays it's a limited amount of games. And then she plays in Russia and China. But my gosh, 10 years she's facing for this. I'm not saying you should break the rules, but 10 years.
Okay. We don't know how much she took. Okay. We don't know how much she was. And here's the thing. I don't feel that Brittney Griner is smuggling or
no, absolutely not.
Drugs over to sell in the United States.
No.
That being said, how dumb can Brittney Griner be? It's mind-boggling to me with everything that's going on with Russia, the United States, Ukraine, the European Union, that you would even take a chance doing something that stupid, because that's what it is. That they're going to be looking at those players or any American under a fine tooth comb. Why? Because again, they're communists and they're going to use every advantage they can possibly gain. Maybe they've known that she's done this in the past. and just kind
They
of let
didn't.
it go. I don't put anything past the Russians, honestly. I really don't. So maybe they targeted her. I don't know.
That's one thing that's circulating around there. Maybe they're here's the thing. It's crazy, right? You put your tinfoil hat on and you're seeing everything that's being thrown out there right now. Here's the
That's
ultimate.
not tinfoil hat.
Well, okay, we cannot say with any definity that yes, maybe Russia's doing something to plant some sort of additional, paraphernalia on her in order to maximize the sentence that she could get. We have no earthly idea. We can't say that with any sort of merit. But would it shock me? No. It wouldn't shock me at all with the way tensions. I saw a report saying that they're going to try to use Brittney Griner as a bargaining chip. So does
Absolutely.
that shock? If that's the case and that's the mindset we have, it means either one or two things. People in the United States are trying to further escalate the tensions that we have because they want to get boots in the ground overseas, which we don't want, right? Obviously, we want
No.
some sort of peace. Or that, yes, they know kind of how they think and that this was their kind of plan all along. Because I'm not sure how many Americans or notable Americans are in Russia at the moment. I mean, she's the star of the WNBA. She's one of the faces of the WNBA. I know that lady from Oregon, I can't remember her name, it was drafted recently. She's up there too. But Brittney Griner's been a dominant force for many years in the WNBA.
I couldn't tell you one WNBA player. It barely even exists as far as I'm concerned. But here's the thing. Again, let's say she's been playing there for what, 8, 9, 10 years in Russia. Maybe she's done this in the past. Maybe they let her slide. I don't know. Maybe she's used to doing this. But here's the thing. Look at what everything's happening in the world, Brittney Griner. Look at it with the open eyes. They're at war. The United States is involved. They're trying to squash Russia by freezing all the assets, anything to get them out of Ukraine. And you still think it's smart to bring hashish oil overseas? To me, it's mind-numbingly dumb on her part. I just think she's just, I want to say clueless. Because if you had a common sense one, you're like, okay, even if I've done this in the past, things are kind of different right now. Kind of different in the world. I'm going to leave my oils back there. I just think it was foolish of her. Now, that being said, because I'm not going to bury her,
I was about to say,
would it surprise me if they set her up? I'm not saying they planted it, but if they've known that she's had a history of doing this before and they target her for investigation, number one. And then number two,
maybe in the past, because I guarantee you she has some sort of elite check that she just walks right through the line because they know who she is. And maybe they've known in the past that she's brought small quantities over and they've warned her, hey, you can't do that, but it's not a big deal. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm sure the amount she had
was not like, hey, I'm a drug dealer.
Yeah. It's not like she's bringing tanks of this stuff in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And,
personal use. I'm sure it's for personal use, not for sale.
Yes, absolutely. And what do I know? But that's my thought.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, would they try to use her as a bargaining chip?
Yes.
I absolutely believe they do that. See, and this is why I got a little bit heated the last podcast when we were talking about Russia. You don't understand what Russia's about. You don't, because you didn't grow up with it. You didn't grow up in the Cold War era and know what Russian was under the totalitarian regime that is in place now and used to be in place years and years and years ago. They'll do anything to discredit us and make us look bad, anything to put us behind the 8 ball. I mean, so would it surprise me if you're turning off our oil? We're going to punish this girl for 10 years or whatever. I don't think she's going to serve 10 years, first of all. But for people saying, gosh, 10 years is excessive. Well, you know what? This isn't the United States where, for a drug crime, you get just a short amount of time. It's different in other countries. It's not the United States judicial system. Just isn't. So that's another thing that, you have to think about.
And here's the thing. I think they will try to use her as a bargaining chip. And it's unfortunate, right? I feel bad for her. It doesn't, like, when she's walking through, I could not imagine she's like walking through, hey, my suitcase is full of hashish oil and I'm trying to make a drug. I just don't think that's the case. I
No.
think it's just used for personal use, and it's like the little things you put in a little vape pen, from what I understand, the research I did. So she probably bought like a whole bunch of things, maybe some that were vape items, some that had some sort of marijuana component there to it, and other places maybe allow her to fly with it. Maybe the one that she just went through didn't. I don't know. I feel bad for her because
Okay.
it's a bad time it's a bad time for her and a bad time for anybody to be getting, detained in Russia. It's a bad time for that because everything's going to be heightened. And I think they're going to treat her worse off than if the Russia-Ukraine incident was not ongoing right now.
Yeah. Very highly probable. She'll be treated just like everybody else. And for me, see, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, a little bit of she should have used a little bit of common sense.
Well, I won't even say they'll treat her like everybody else. Everybody else is, and the thing is, like, right when we go on, like, hey, tiers of, how important or how notable people are, right? If they got LeBron James, that would be like, whoa, it's totally different, right? Brittney Griner's a little step underneath that. But if it's Joe Blow from the Alamo, it's me or you, Grumpy. We're not making headlines, and we're not a bargaining chip, as simple as that.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're not getting the max sentence. Once again, it's a communist country, and they're really against drugs over there. They're firmly against that. Always have been. I mean, you just got to be smarter. I wish she was just a little bit smarter, used a little bit of common sense. She wouldn't have got herself into this trouble, regardless of what the end result's going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, she shouldn't have been taking that stuff on the plane. I mean, and that's just got the way I look at it. They're going to use her as a tool. If she was smarter, it never would have happened. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I feel bad for what she's going to be going through, but she brought it upon herself in a sense. Don't smuggle drugs, folks. Don't do it. Don't go to foreign countries and try to smuggle drugs out of there. I watched the movie Midnight Express the other day.
Stop. It's not Midnight Express, Grumpy.
Well, I'm just saying, same
Holy
thing.
Shit.
This guy,
way different.
This guy thought he could smuggle hash out, and he got popped.
Way different, Grump.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if he had used his brain, he wouldn't have been trying to smuggle shit out of a communist country like that. Just don't do it. It's dumb. Just dumb.
Way different Midnight
Don't
Express.
use drugs. Don't smuggle drugs. Nothing good's going to come of it.
She wasn't smuggling drugs. She was using drugs, and she just had them in her suitcase. Guess what? That means that she was.
That's why I said first. Don't use drugs.
Okay. Well, good. Now you're going to get back on that. So we're going to move immediately away from that because here we go. We're not trying to make this nonsense go on. Alexander says, yeah, they're trying to make this political. Putin is going to demand something. Yes, for certain.
100% agree.
And wasn't she told not to go to Russia by the U.S. government? Well, she was over there playing. She was over there playing, and she was leaving because they said, come home. She was during her Russian. She plays the way the WNBA season shortened. It's not a full NBA season. They only play a handful of games. There's not as many teams.
Isn't it a summer league?
She imagine like this. She plays a portion here in the WNBA. She plays a portion in Russia, a portion in China. She bounces around because it's not a full time. It's not a year-long thing. She's only playing, I think, like 40 games a year in the WNBA. So she's got another 40 or 50 games that she could play elsewhere. And that's, hey, the Russian league and the Chinese league are built to where they're in the off season of the WNBA. So she plays to make more money, and she plays to, she just plays overseas. And so she was heading back home, I think is what it was. They said, hey, all U.S. citizens need to come back home. And that's what she was doing. And that's when they went ahead and got her and detained her in the Russian airport.
So was she over there before this happened or after?
Yes. Yeah. She's been over there for a while, Grumpy. Okay. She was over there before things escalated. She was playing in her season.
Okay.
And then they said, come home. So she said, I'm coming home.
I don't know enough about her situation. Like I said, women's basketball, it's a non-entity for me. So
Tony the Werewolf said, probably the worst timing to get caught in a Russian airport. Yeah, with that shit for certain. And he said, why can I see them saying, stop sending weapons to the Ukraine or the basketball star gets it? I could see them saying something like that. And then Putin's unstable right now. And I can't see a way that they can even use her as a bargaining chip. I could see them saying, "Hey,
Maybe they think that the women's NBA is more important over here than we think. It's not.
here's the thing: it's made headlines, and that's what they're looking to do, right? They want to make it headlines, and right, it's just going to be able to draw on the headlines for another week at least, bare minimum. Brittney Griner needs to get free. They've got her
Corrupt Western basketball star tries to sneak drugs out of country.
They're going to spin it and make her look like she was also carrying this. She was carrying that. She was making threats at the airport. She said she was going to murder. They're going to try to make her look the worst. By the way, since the last time we had talked, well, I get it. They have videotape. We could see that. They have disabled YouTube. They disabled Snapchat. They've disabled TikTok. They've disabled every single one of the social media aspects to where you can get unfiltered actual news. Russia has now shut those all down in their country.
That's what happens when you have countries trying to crush discord, where they only want you to hear one voice. That's the way communist countries are. It's the way they are. They squash you. That's why the other day the people don't want to do it, but they don't even know what's going on for the most part.
Well, now they've just taken every single one of those platforms where they could see or access any sort of news or media that is against what the Russian state wants to put out. So hate to see that. Hate to see that, right? You know, United States is a big believer and always will be of freedom of speech and easy accessibility to all different sources of information, right?
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that.
We are okay. Okay.
I don't want to talk about that.
Good. Okay. And it's not good if she gets treated like everybody else. Russia is known for torture, beating, etc. Hashish oil is marijuana, but marijuana is not considered a drug. I think in Russia it is. So it just depends on how they look at it. And if Putin's unstable, what's dementia, Joe Biden? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Hopefully, all we got to do is hope that things go well. I mean, but moving away from this, because I just wanted to bring it up that now that is going to be in the headline. That's going to be in the spotlight, right? She is a member tied in the sports community, and, with what's going on, right, she will be in the headlines at least for the next week, 2 weeks, just the way the media goes. Simple as that. Wouldn't you say, Grumpy?
She will not be tortured. She will not be brutalized.
I hope not.
That won't happen. I can guarantee you that won't happen. But she might. I'm not even going to speculate. But if she has to do time, she'll get it pretty easy, because there's no way that they're going to torture that woman and have her go back to the United States and she said she was tortured. Not going to happen.
I hope not. Want to talk about some MLB news to give an update before we switch gears to the NFL.
Just one quick thing.
What are we hitting on again on that last subject?
Okay, here's the thing. Remember, while the Russians are doing this to try to gain leverage, they're not going to do anything that's going to try to really antagonize the United States by torturing her. That's what I'm saying. They're going to walk that line. They're not going to torture her. It won't happen.
Okay. I will say, if they wanted to not antagonize the United States at all, they would have just said, we're not going to invade Ukraine. But
that's a whole
right. If we're talking about non-antagonistic events, that would have been one, but they decided not to do so. So we have no earthly idea. Let's just leave it at that, and we're not going to talk about it anymore, Grump. Switching gears back to more fun items to discuss regarding the sports world, because Grumpy likes to bring everything down when he talks about shit like that. The Players Union, what, Grumpy? The Players Union has agreed to allow the MLB to ban the shift and implement a pitch clock and make the bases larger starting in 2023. Subject to those agreements fitting into a total deal, the union has also rejected the robo-umps in the 2022-2023 season, and the MLB's goal is to be able to streamline the process and add excitement to the game. They also are going to add an extra 40 seconds of commercials in between every inning.
So how, in essence, does that change the length of the game? You're adding commercials. Okay, so you're not seeing as much action, but you're watching more commercials. Okay, that makes sense. the shift. Okay, here's the thing. If they want to line up the way they want to line up, that's on them. Learn how to adjust to it as a batter. It's the left-handed batters who hate it because they're mostly pull hitters. They don't like it. Tough shit. You know what? Modify your game. Hit it where they ain't. Hit it where they ain't. That's what the game's about. Hit it where they're not. Yeah. Bigger bases. Maybe you got little bunnies running around the bases too. Put little things on the TV screen so people get entertained during in between pitches.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's one of the nostalgic parts of baseball, right? It's something that I could put on, I could pay attention to, and I could just have a casual conversation. It's not a sport where I've got to be attentive the entire time. I have a lot of downtime and I can more relax. That's what makes it's America's pastime, right? I think if you want to bring excitement to the game, baseball is not a game to where you're going to be able to bring a whole bunch of excitement and, whoa, we're going to get people unbelievably pumped up.
I just like how they say Major League Baseball's goal is to be able to streamline the process and add excitement to the game by giving you an extra 40 seconds of commercials in timeouts.
Well, they didn't include that. That was one I gathered from, and somebody else had made the point. They said, yeah, they want to streamline the process, but they want to add an extra 40 seconds of commercials, and they're planning on adding an extra 40 seconds of commercials in between every inning additional. And you're like,
why do they need the bases to be bigger?
I don't know. I didn't get that one. The base is bigger. I didn't know that was a big complaint. I've never heard that as being an issue until today.
They've been the same size for 100 years plus. And you want to change the size of the bases because that's like a big thing. Can they not see the bases between the 90 feet?
More excitement, Grumpy. So now when people are stealing bases, they've got more ability to avoid the tag. Yeah, more excitement in the game.
1 foot by 1 foot.
The shift.
1 foot by 1 foot isn't big enough. Let's put the pitcher's mound 45 foot back, and that should improve hitting too.
And you know what else we should do? We should only we should limit the guys that are out there actually fielding the balls too. We should just go ahead and remove one outfielder and one infielder and just make it 3 designated hitters. So then we can really start bumping up the score. It's just foolish. More excitement, more of an expedited game. Let's knock it down to only 2 outs and you get out of the inning. I'll make it better.
Do you want to know what would, like I said, 33% of every at-bat is a home run, a strikeout, or a walk. You want to know what you do? You actually call the strike zone as it's written. Shoulders to knees, not belt to below the nipples. It means the batter's going to have to start swinging at some more stuff. They can't just sit there and lay there and take pitches all the time.
The fact that they've banned the shift is freaking asinine to me. It is so unbelievably dumb. I cannot get over that. So now, if I have a player who just pulls it on 75% of the time they make contact with the ball, it gets pulled into left field, and he's always a pop fly guy. Why the hell can't I go ahead and line more players out in the outfield? Why can't I go ahead and make an adjustment to set my team up for success because somebody's unwilling to adapt? You know what it's like? Seriously, and I'm going to pop this up by Tony the Werewolf. He says, I heard the NFL is going to ban the dime and prevent defense formations to allow more excitement. Eat a dick, MLBs. You know what it's like? It's like saying, well, we've got wide receivers that are making big yards and gains. We're not going to allow you to drop back in extra coverage. You're only going to be able to run the football. And, you can only pass the ball for 10 yards. Anything deep downfield, we're not allowing anymore because it's really tough on the defenses. What?
Or here's a rule that they put in. You could never, ever grab somebody at all as an offensive lineman. The guys used to block like this. Now you can grab guys, or you grab their jerseys and push them. You could never do that before. That was holding years ago. That was not allowed. Did you know that, TJ? You couldn't have played the position with your sloppy technique. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. Okay, Grump. Yeah. All righty.
That's true. Seriously. Guys used to block like this.
That's because they didn't know how to block.
No.
As simple as that.
That's what the rules were. That's what the rules were.
Oh, stop. You got to stop.
Oh, okay. You weren't alive then. I'm telling you what the rules were.
The rules were I was not allowed to go ahead and place my hands on somebody. I had to go punch it. Yeah, Grumpy, just stop.
Look at old tape. Look at old tape.
It's them not knowing. It's them not having the game perfected. Grump is what it is.
No,
Yes.
you're wrong. You're
Yes.
wrong. That was with the rules.
Okay.
Those were the rules.
Pull up, Grumpy, your homework assignment. Pull up anywhere where it says I'm not allowed to place my hand and a punch like that on somebody's body. And I'll go ahead and say I'm wrong, Grumpy, but that doesn't exist. So, okay. Anyway, I'm just saying that's
1960 anymore, TJ.
Jesus Christ. My God. And then they all agree with all this. Now let's get the new CBA deal. I don't think it's coming anytime soon. I saw the MLB went ahead and put aside like a little fund, or the MLBPA put aside a fund for the workers who are affected, like the game day workers. I actually know a few game day workers who work on like the field crew for the Washington Nationals, and for items like that, for people who work those jobs, so that they at least are receiving some sort of compensation as the league is shut out, right? The average everyday Joe, like, the Mike that I know who does that job, is the person who's affected the most. That's where they get the majority of their income. That's their job throughout the majority of their, the year. And they work a little part-time job like a teacher would in the summer or something like that. And when summer rolls around or baseball season rolls around, he goes to his permanent job, which is, with the field crew with the Washington Nationals. And you think to yourself, the people like that who are not making hand over fist, those are the people who are affected the most. Nice to see the MLBPA is helping those individuals out.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that.
So
it's a good PR move too. It's a good PR move for them.
I won't even say it's a good PR move. It's a good thing for people to do. It's a good thing for the average everyday Joe. I know it's good for the PR, but I understand it's a PR move, but it's good for the people that are affected through this. So I don't care if it's a good PR move. It comes with a good result for the people who are actually affected.
I just don't want you to think that they're doing out of the kindness of their heart.
Maybe they are.
Maybe
they are. Do you remember when Kevin Love went ahead and paid for every single worker's compensation for the Cavs when they had the temporary lockout? Do you remember when he paid every single employee the entire time when they're out in the lockout? It wasn't meant as a total PR move. He did it. Maybe it was a little bit of a PR move, but guess what? He paid for every single one of those workers' wages when the NBA was when locked out 2 years ago.
It's all done as PR moves. Everything they do is a PR move. Everything. Okay. They want public perception on their side. How do you get public perception on your side? You pay the game day workers. That's how you do it. Oh, well, geez, I'm definitely going for them. That's why they do it. It's all about money. All this is about money. It's always about money. This is about money.
I heard the NFL is bringing back the push-out rule.
I hope not. I hope not.
He's laughing.
Then once again, you will have to be dependent on the officials making a judgment call. Would he have landed with 2 feet in? Would he not have landed with 2 feet in? No. Get 2 feet down. If a guy grabs you in the middle of the field and comes and throws you out, your feet weren't down in bounds.
Tony the Werewolf says here, all defensive players will now play with horse blinders to make the game more exciting. Also, to add the competitive advantage, all defensive players are going to have to strip their gloves off, and they're going to have to play with their bare hands, where the offensive receivers can wear the gloves with extra stickum on it to make the game more exciting.
If you watch the defensive backs, I don't think it matters if they're wearing gloves, if they got fishing nets, whatever. They can't catch the ball for a reason. That's why they play defensive back.
And Alexander says they don't have to do it. It's actually a wonderful gesture. I was about to say they don't have to do it. And I'm saying maybe the MLBPA did that for some positive PR, but it comes with a good result. And that's all that really matters. I don't care what the PR result is for it. It comes with a good result. The person who is unable to work because of something that's out of their hands and out of their control is now able to go ahead and have a stipend and still get paid.
It costs them nothing to do that.
I'm not saying it does. I'm not saying it costs them a lot. It's only they set aside $1 million. I'm not saying I get it. I get it. But again, it's a good. I didn't see the MLB doing that for the players. I didn't see the MLB doing that for the game time workers. Why is that? If it's such a great move, why didn't the MLB, the billionaire owners, come out and shell $1 million out amongst the 32 owners that are out there? Some billionaires. Why didn't they just throw a few, throw $50K in there, throw 100,000 in there a piece, and there we go. We've got $1 million to set up for the game day workers, so it looks good for us. Why didn't the MLB jump on that really quick? Why didn't their PR gurus do that?
Because they run the show. They don't have to do that. They run the show. Without the ownership of the teams, there are no players, there are no game day workers. Like I said, the Players Association does that to curry favor with the common fan.
Why
That's
doesn't the MLB owners want to make themselves look as rosy as possible? Everybody's blaming Manfred. They're blaming the greedy owners. Wouldn't this be a step to help change that public perception, Grump?
Does anyone look at the owners as victims in this? Anyone?
No.
Okay, that ain't going to change it then.
It's helps.
The poor, innocent players, the millionaires as opposed to the billionaires. So the millionaires try to paint it like we're on welfare all winter because we're not playing. Okay, no. And you can't paint a billionaire as that. You just can't.
I'm just saying it would have been a good gesture, right, for the PR move. Why didn't the MLB jump on that immediately? But, hey, what can you say?
Those guys work for the owners. They don't work for the players. They don't work for the players. They work for the owners. So you would like it, okay, we're striking. If you are in any business where a strike happens, you're not getting paid by your employer, period. You're aware of that, right?
I don't think you're understanding the point I'm trying to draw. You are so fixated that this is all based on a grandiose gesture and it has nothing to do with the good of the individuals and that they can't go ahead and see that the actual people are affected. Why, if it's such a good and positive PR move, did the MLB not jump on this before the MLBPA? It would mean absolutely nothing for the MLB owners to put $50,000 in the pot a piece in order to go ahead and have this provided there for the game day workers. Nothing.
You're not paying any attention to the negotiations. They wanted to play 60 games last year. They don't care about any of that. They just don't want to pay any money out. It affects their bottom line. That's what it affects it doesn't affect the players' bottom line, but it does affect their bottom line. And they want to squeeze every penny that they can out of this. They're greedy. They're both greedy, but the owners are even more greedy. They're like Scrooge McDuck over there, counting pennies. They're not going to give somebody something for free.
Scrooge McDuck didn't want to go on a free PR move that would have got him in the news for 2 days for $50,000. That wasn't enough. Well,
nope.
Okay, fair enough. B Bean says comments on Brian Greasy becoming a first-time coach.
I'm surprised by that. He's been in the ESPN booth for a couple of years on Monday Night Football, and he left. I don't know. Well, I think they're changing up the staff, and he's going to San Francisco.
49ers quarterback coach.
Yeah, I don't know who he's going to coach. Trey Lance, maybe if they get Tom Brady in there, Brady could coach Lance as well as teach Greasy how to be a quarterback's coach. I don't know, but I thought that was an interesting move. Very interesting. He must be tight with Shanahan, right?
Absolutely, Grumpy. No doubt about that. So before we're going to migrate to the NFL, a lot of exciting NFL news.
Just one quick comment on that. You realize he was Michigan's starting quarterback just before Brady. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Been out of the league for 10 years.
We are going to jump to an ad, and then we're going to talk some NFL items that are going to be exciting, and it's going to be fun here. Today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. Hoop fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. I'm talking between the legs 360 windmill good. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win, and it's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can still go ahead and take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Basketball Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 years or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Void where prohibited. A minimum of a $5 deposit is required. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And Tennessee, call or text TN Redline, which is 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369, Grumpy.
Yes.
There it is.
TJ, man, you are getting that ad read down.
I think this is the last week of that ad, so unfortunately, it is. It's going to be, it's going to be all changed up here. And then, real quick, some comments here before we jump on. Tony the Werewolf says, "I agree with TJ. It doesn't matter if it's a PR move; it's still a good thing. Just like I don't care how many people abuse welfare, as long as it helps one family that really needs it."
We'll just agree to disagree on that. Any
Alex,
abuse is not good.
What?
In my opinion, anybody who abuses the system, that's not good.
And then I will take a look at the article here. B Bean says, this quote from Grumpy: "Greed is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit." Gordon Gekko.
Gordon Gekko from Wall Street.
Oh, good gracious.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm just saying that's the way the real world is, though.
That's the way the business people think. I don't doubt
exactly.
That's the way the business people think.
I'm not a business person, but that is exactly how business people think. How do you think they have all that money? And they're not going to just give it to somebody just to be nice. They're working for it. Whatever. Yeah. More power to
them. Well, we're going ahead and moving right along here. So did you happen to see with Kayvon Thibodeau, people are putting him as a possible person who's falling in this year's MLB or NFL draft? Did you happen to see that?
Yes, I did.
Now, I'll let you listen. It's all, I think, revolving this one clip that he come out with. And I'll be honest with you, I don't quite necessarily grasp it. I'll let you listen to it. And again, because you can read it, and I think it doesn't actually, you don't hear the inflection on what the guy's actually saying. It's off of a minute-long clip that they say might be hurting his draft position and draft stock. And I don't get it. I'll let you listen to it, because the guy had a fantastic, and I mean absolutely fantastic, combine. And again, 40-yard dash was fantastic. 27 bench press reps, a 4.67 40 or 4.65 40. Fantastic day at the combine. This clip right here apparently is what's going to go ahead and move him possibly down the draft board. I'll let you listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to the Giants. We had a great interview. They were kind of on me, they were giving me a hard time. But, I feel like it was like that big brother moment where they give you a hard time because they're interested in you and they like you. So for me, just showing them that, I'm really a guy. I grew up in a big city, so a big city is nothing new to me, right? Well, I mean, just give me a hard time, like when you bring up, what's going to happen if I'm not the star, coming in 5 games in, if I don't have a sack. This is one thing we talked about. And, the media is going to be down on me. Everybody's going to be, I'm going to be in the doghouse. How am I going to hold that? And I let them know, like, I've been in the media since I was a sophomore in high school, so I've been trained for this my whole life. And I know that most of it is entertainment, right? So I'm not really worried, because whatever happens between the 4 walls of the team and the organization is what's going to dictate the future. And if I have 5 bad games, we're going to focus on that next week on how we're going to, dominate the team, that's next.
So what sounds so bad with that comment?
That's not what they're talking about. If you would have read the article, that's not what they were talking about. The fact that he has an answer for everything, even when you shouldn't have an answer, he has an answer for everything. They ask, well, what if a coach has to practice? Well, a coach wouldn't need to tell me anything because I already know what's wrong. Ugh. And somebody said, you got some hard-ass defensive coaches going to get up in your face and call you out for lack of effort in front of the team. How are you going to respond to that? We talked to Oregon, and, most of these guys, they say, yes, he's fantastic. They didn't do that with him, about him taking plays off. He has some issues, I'm going to say. He's never stopped talking the whole time during an interview. I mean, the article is a really interesting read that I sent you. It's not that. That's part of it. But some of the other things are more questionable. And like I said, when you're investing millions and millions of dollars into somebody like that, you want to know what their character is. If you can coach them hard, what's going to happen if they don't get, if he does, what happens when he's not the star of the show? Is he going to sulk? Is he going to quit? Is he going to take downs off where they can just run at him? There are a lot of things to worry about with him. I'm not saying that if anything's going to pan out, but I can understand when there's questions about him. That's all. I think I
don't understand the questions behind him at all. I look at on the field performance and I look at what he can do. The guy's fantastic. do I think this is a guy maybe who I could tell you by the way he described and answered that question, when they're asking questions, I guarantee you he's a guy who thinks he does have an answer for everything. And that's fine. Some young players do believe that. And again, he's 21 years old, right? So does he maybe need some experience and some seasoning of, hey, sometimes there's a time to speak and other times there's a time not to. He's always been big man on campus. When that changes, right, and that kind of opens your eyes as you become more mature and as you get more familiar what it is to be an NFL player, that changes. Your mindset might change a bit. I'm not too worried about that. The guy seems like he has his head on his shoulders. He seems very articulate there in his response. And again, you talk about like some players will come out and say, oh, can you grasp it? This is not at all an issue that I have with him, right? You say, okay, maybe he might take some downs off. They said the same thing about Jadeveon Clowney at University of South Carolina as well.
He fancies him as a Jadeveon Clowney 2.0, by the way.
Jadeveon Clowney was fantastic before he had microfracture surgery on his knee. Fantastic.
Here's what a team official said. We get these kids for 20 minutes or whatever, maybe closer to 18 once you get through the handshakes and all that. And I think he mentioned his brand at least 3 times. He became the NIL king this year, and I think some of that will carry over. A second one said he was putting on a show. He's a charismatic kid. He talks a lot. You're just trying to figure out where football is on the importance scale to him. I think it's high, pretty high, but you just want to see if it's number 1 or lower than that. Those are question marks.
Okay.
Those are question marks.
He's putting on a show. He sounds like, okay, did you not see how he seems like he's smiling even when he's answering? He seems like a guy who tries to curry favor because he's a likable individual when you get to know him on a one-on-one basis. I have no problem at all. Those things that those comments said, I could tell by looking at the film where the freaking priorities lie. I could tell by looking at his preparedness for the combine where his priority lies. You don't just roll out of bed and run a 4.6 40 and have 27 bench press reps with huge ass arms like he does. That you don't just roll out of bed doing that. I could tell the preparation, the efforts there. I don't need to tell what an 18-minute interview with the Johnny Poindexter comes ahead and comes back with. I don't need to hear that. Doesn't bother me. Not at all. Not at all.
I'm just glad you're not an NFL GM.
How many times NFL GMs and how many times those Johnny Poindexters who go ahead and have those and conduct those interviews completely flop and miss? Sorry for my language. I'm talking about completely miss. I could tell by looking at the kid and looking at the play whether he can play or not. I don't need to have somebody ask a million damn questions who's never damn played the sport and tell me, oh, we think he might be able to do this right and that right. I don't need to hear that because I think
they question his ability to take coaching, hard coaching. They question that.
Okay,
that's a problem.
Okay. Well, hold on. I didn't hear any of that in what was.
You didn't read the article.
If they have that, where hey, does he accept coach? They said the same exact thing about Montez Sweat. How will he take coaching? Remember, that's why he slid at the time period to the Washington Redskins.
Has he been great? Has he been great for Washington?
Yes.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not been great for them. He's been good. He's not been great. He was supposed to be a top 10 pick, slid to the second round. There's reasons why, and he's not been great. He's been good. He's not been great, though.
How many games did he play last year? He got injured. Let me see.
Injuries don't mean anything.
I was about to say, when I'm looking at this, okay, this last year he played 10 games, had 5 sacks in 10 games. Year before that, played 16 games, had 9 sacks. Rookie year, 16 games, 7 sacks. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a late first-round pick, who's consistently putting up, upper single digits to maybe even double digits on a full season when healthy on sacks.
Okay, but he's never hit double digits in his career. Never has. Okay. Never has.
And if he hits that this year, then what's
But he hasn't. But he hasn't. You keep on saying, he would do this, but he's never done it. I'm just saying he's never done it. I'm just saying this kid's got question marks. And for you just to say, well, we're just going to ignore that. Why even bother having team interviews? All we need to do is just look what they do on the field.
I'm not saying team interviews are bad. When you said, is he okay with coaching? Can he be coachable? That's something completely different. I think that is something, right? That's a question you have to ask. Asking, he's talking a lot about his brand. That's how most young individuals are now. Emphasis has been placed on that in college athletics. As simple as that. Building a brand an emphasis has been placed on building a brand for these 18-year-olds and up. Is it crazy to think that when they ask him a question about his brand, did he go ahead and pontificate on it? For certain, it doesn't shock me at all. That is where emphasis has been placed for these young men.
Okay. Here's the thing. You're going in for a job interview and you think they're interested in your NIL. Do you think that's you think they care about that at all?
Do you think he just volunteered information? Oh yeah, I can't wait to build up my NIL plan. No, they probably asked him about it.
Do you think NFL executives who have 20 minutes with the prospect are talking about their brand? I guarantee you he brought it up.
Yes, if they feel like they just even said on that same comment, where does his interest lie? Well, we know that you do a lot with the name, image, and likeness. How important is that for you? I could see them for certain asking a question like that in a 20-minute span if they feel like his priorities might not be in football. Maybe it's on his brand. I could see him certainly asking about his brand. Do I think the guy just said, oh, man, I love my brand. Before we start this interview, I can't wait to get the Kayvon Thibodeau brand up and going. That's what I'm really pushing now. Do I think that's what happened?
Can we say that these guys who do the interviews with these players have been doing it for years and years, kind of know about it more than we do?
Yeah, for certain.
Okay, here we go.
I can tell. Go ahead.
The knocks on Thibodeau, the football player, is that he can take some reps off and also can be contact adverse at times. Although both teams noted some of these issues could be chalked up to the ankle injury he suffered early in the season. Yet NFL teams know what they've seen on tape, and some of their concerns have not been completely allayed when it comes to the when they cross-checked with Oregon people. The coaches didn't kill him, but they didn't correct this either. I think he's got a passion, a lot of pride. I just wonder if it's channeled in the right places. This is from talking to the kid and talking to people who know him best. I'm sorry. All I'm saying is I could understand why a team would be questionable picking him in the top 3, for instance. I could understand that. That's all I'm saying. He will be a first-round pick, but maybe he slides down a little bit. That's all.
In the 10 games he played, and he had the ankle injury all season long, had 7 sacks. I can tell you what I saw. And I'm going to let you know something. Ladies and gentlemen, defensive ends and outside linebackers, I don't give a shit who you are. DeMarcus Lawrence, I don't care what it is. Von Miller, all of them take plays off. Every single one of them. And that's always take some plays off occasionally. Every single one of them do. You can't pass rush 110% on every single down, and you can't go ahead and hold the line of scrimmage every single down as they're driving and have a 15 play drive. It just can't be done.
Okay, but when that's your rep, when you've developed a rep for that, that means they see it more than in other players.
They had the same exact issues. Aaron Donald's different.
Oh, he's different. Okay.
Yes, he is. He is different. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not every single player who comes out in the draft is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I just don't believe it. These guys have done this forever and ever and ever. They know.
And I've seen them screw up forever and ever and ever too. They're not perfect. They're not perfect.
Well, guess what? Maybe they're right about this kid. Maybe they're wrong. But I think it could hurt his draft stock. That's all the article said. He's not a lock to go in the top 5 like he was previously, because people have questions about him. That's all it said. It doesn't mean he's not going to get drafted or anything like that, but he could slip.
I look at what I saw out of this kid at the combine and what I've seen out of him this year when he's playing, again, injured all season long, and I love what I see out of him. I love it. I love it, bro. What?
All right. I don't care if he can run a 40-yard dash. I care less.
You could care less that he ran, what was it, like one of the fastest 40-yard dashes from a D end? You could care less about that? A 4.65 40 doesn't matter much?
What does it matter? Okay. He's going to be wearing equipment. He's going to be wearing equipment when he plays.
Oh,
he's not going to be running in some type of souped-up shoe.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to talk about that too, because the 40-yard dash times were unbelievably fast this year. And we're going to talk about that, have a little segment on it, Grumpy. But here's the thing. I want you to look, 27 bench press reps. Look at how long his arms are. And again, it's tougher for guys with these longer arms to be getting as many bench press reps. 27 bench press reps, Grumpy. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay. Who's talking about his physical characteristics? No one. No one. It's the other stuff they're talking about. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about what he can do on the field. They're talking about.
They were questioning his devotion and where football lies.
There you go. And showing a guy getting bench pressed or running a 40-yard dash doesn't do anything to alleviate that. Does it? I'm just saying what the article
I'm just going to tell you this. When you prepare for the combine, when you prepare for pro days, it's not something where it's like, I'll roll out for a week and work hard and get there. No, I'm dedicated to that every single day. twice a day, like diet, every single bit of everything is planned out. You've got guys planning from start to finish. You wake up, you do XYZ. Okay, we're working out. This is what your guy's going ahead and putting you through. Okay, you go through the cryogenic, the cryogenic, whatever they call it, the cryogenic freezer, where it goes ahead and get your body feeling good. Then you go ahead and take a lunch break. Then you come back. Everything is planned out, and everything is so
Who
meticulous.
cares? Who cares?
Where
What does that have to do? What does
to
that
the
have to do with him
sport line?
taking plays off and the coaches admitting by not defending him that he does that?
Okay,
That-
well, hold,
I mean,
I'm
that's
answering your
volume.
question on where football is a priority. I'm going through how in depth and detailed I'm sure he was preparing for the combine to show you football is number one priority. That's why I was trying to go through that, Grump. I'm answering your questions one by one.
Okay, I
Don't
think
move it.
he's just maybe he's looking. Hey, maybe I can expand my brand the higher I get drafted. Maybe that's what he's going for. Maybe it's not about football; it's about his brand, because he talked about the brand at least three times in 15 minutes. I mean, like I said, that's a red for me. That's a red flag, dude. Where's your head at? I could care less about your brand. I want to make sure that you can get after the quarterback on Sundays. I could care less that you want to sell ketchup or whatever it is that your brand is. That means nothing
Kevon
to
Thibodeau
us.
ketchup.
I think it means nothing to NFL teams what a guy's brand is. Absolutely nothing.
They asked him, I guarantee you, a question about that. Okay, don't let's take what is most likely what it is going to be. All right, man. I want to go ahead and show you though. We talked about this year's NFL Combine. It seemed like players are running unbelievably quick across the board. Well, here you go, grumpy old man. This is the most amount of players. 31 players in this year's combine ran a sub 4.4 40-yard dash. That is the most ever in NFL combine history. The average amongst all players this year's NFL combine was a 4.71 40-yard dash. Now, Grumpy, you had actually done some research on this beforehand to figure out what has now led to these individuals being so much faster. Why is the reason for this?
Nike has developed a new track shoe that they're giving out to the NFL prospects to use for the 40-yard dash, where it has like a really firm bottom, so it almost acts like a spring every time you take a step, and that's why the times are as good as they are. They're just, they're running shoes. They're not NFL cleats or anything like that. But I find it interesting where everyone is breaking records. It's like, what was the year that these players were drafted? Was it the fastest crop of babies that ever lived? I don't know.
Yes,
I'm going to say it probably has more to do with the shoe.
I'm going to say I'm sure the shoe has something to do with it.
They say it's like a spring. It kind of makes it like where you're springing a little bit. It's like a recoil. Like, remember when they used to have the figure skaters with those little clack skates where the blade would stay on the ground longer, so it would get you more push? That's kind of like this is. And you saw the times go crazy drop with the clack skates, and that's the same thing you're seeing with these shoes.
I'm thinking it definitely has something to do with the shoes. I'm thinking, maybe players did, prepare a little bit, but I'm not saying that, right? I'm not going to say, people in the past just haven't prepared, or this year's draft class is just the fastest draft class in the history of the sport. I don't know. I'll be interested to see, right? Next year, I feel like you may have unbelievable numbers the same way, because they always are trying to find out, the best and greatest, latest technology they can put out in a shoe to help a guy shave, 2/100ths of a second off his 40 time.
Can you bring up Tom Brady running the 40-yard dash during the combine? Because I think what they should do, they should make everybody wear the same shoe. And I think this is the shoe they should wear. I believe they're Air Monarchs.
Oh my
God. The old people like me have a pair of Air Monarchs somewhere, and I certainly do.
You have to go ahead, in order to get this, you have to Christ I love this. I mean, like, you look at all the shirts back then too, everything was like a loose fitting shirt, and just
look
like
at those shoes,
shorts and a t-shirt.
That's the shoes they should run in, not the track shoes, those sneakers right there. Everybody runs in those sneakers.
Look at this.
Look
at that, baby. He's speeding through, Grumpy.
Gosh,
he's a speed demon.
He looks slower every time he runs that.
I'm pretty sure it was close to what it's like.
Those are the shoes they should run. That's the shoes they should. You're not getting any advantage with those shoes.
Oh my God, they're looking. I tell you,
I think actually looks faster in slow motion.
Oh, good gracious.
That's how Steve Austin, the $6 million man, they used to do it in slow motion.
Your first 10 yards, you're supposed to be on, technically, you're supposed to be on the top part of your foot. You're supposed to be running on the tops of your feet. Your heel's not supposed to hit the ground your first 10 yards. And you see it about three, like 4 or 5 yards in, he's already heel to toe. And so, not a great runner. Tom Brady never was, fantastic athlete.
I just wanted to bring up the shoes, how the shoes have changed. And I think they should go back to running in those shoes.
Yeah, that would be
find it funny that everyone's breaking records for every single position group ever in the combine history. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, Drew L saying, did you listen to Werewolves of London? No, I did not. I apologize. Speaking of the combine, Baylor's Kalon Barnes runs the second fastest 40-yard dash in NFL combine history. I did see that he was a defensive back, ran the fastest, I think, defensive back time too. BB also says Georgia's Jordan Davis, 341 pounds, too heavy for a human being. Also ran a 4.78 40. I have that, and I was going to pull that up. You talk about having a whale of a day. Now, this is a guy who's been questioned before. It's funny. Every single defensive lineman always say, oh, he takes some plays off. Guess what? All defensive linemen take some plays off because as you're getting the ball run down your throat, you can't exert 100% effort. Just can't be done. But look at this. I love they do the side-by-side of Baker Mayfield and Jameis Winston as well. Jordan Davis. Oh my gosh.
Jordan Davis's problem is that he's too heavy.
He needs to lose some weight.
If he lost 15, 20 pounds, he'd be phenomenal. His issue is he gets tired and he stands up at the line of scrimmage. And that's the same with any D lineman, right? If you're not getting that forward push, I mean, TJ, you played the position. When guys are standing up, they're easy to block, right?
Yeah, I was about to say he does need to lose a few pounds. It wouldn't hurt him to come in with a little bit more jump and a little bit more explosion. I mean, you look at the 10-yard split. I want to go back to that. I mean, the 10-yard split was okay.
Let's say he's 320 or 325. He'd still be an absolute force. Mm-hmm. I mean, and he'd be quicker. He'd have more stamina, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a 40-yard dash time. That's
he's probably one of those guys who's going to have to watch his weight his entire career. Going to have weight clauses in his contract.
Oh, well, I'm sure he will. Maybe not on his initial contract. Once he signs back, once he signs an extension, or once he signs, after his rookie deal, I guarantee that will be written in there. I
bet it's in his rookie deal. You come in if you're not at this weight, you lose incentives or you lose bonuses, whatever.
The agents in these athletes should make PR training mandatory for all athletes and their family members. The latter part added because of the Mahomes. I was about to say that we talked about that. Go ahead, Grump.
Okay. They had a thing of who were the most hated players in the league in the last year. And I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be Brady or whatever. Brady didn't even make the list. Aaron Rodgers was number one.
Of course.
For multitude of reasons, of course. I don't even remember any of the other players, but number 4 was Patrick Mahomes' brother. He doesn't even play the game.
Because he's an insufferable asshole.
And number 5 was Mahomes' girlfriend.
Fiance.
Think about that. The most hated players in the NFL, 2 of them, not even players. I feel bad for Patrick Mahomes.
Well, that's the thing. That's what we had talked about, right? You almost have to have a sit down with your family, and you have to say, "Hey, I love the enthusiasm and support you have for me. Cut the social media stuff off, or you're going to have limited exposure." Right? It takes away from what we're trying to accomplish. I cannot be fielding questions about actions. It's tough to do with your fiance, but your brother, I think, is easier. But I cannot be fielding questions, in media days asking about what you're doing on social media, to be honest with you. I need to be focused on it, and I cannot have any distractions. It's easier said than done. That's not a pleasant conversation to have, but I think that's one he's got to have with his family.
I'd love to have a side-by-side picture of Gisele Bündchen on the runway and that trailer park girl that Patrick Mahomes is going out with. I'd love to see the two of them side by side. I feel I mean, I feel bad for him. I really do, because he seems like a genuinely nice kid.
Absolutely.
And how are you going to tell your brother to shut up? I hear that he was not invited to some type of party because he was embarrassed by him.
He is embarrassed by him. And that's the thing, right? What are you going to do? You've got to be open with him. You got to say, hey, man, I love you, but you have to put yourself in my shoes. I get it that you're a social media influencer, but it negatively affects what I'm trying to accomplish, which is win the Super Bowl.
He's a social media influencer. Think about that. Think
So
about that, first of all.
Fiance. The fiance is just because she's engaged to Patrick Mahomes. And same thing with the brother.
Exactly. So what you're saying is stop the social media thing. I know you're an influencer, and I'm the reason why you're an influencer, because you're at all my stuff, but you're going to have to stop that. So what's he going to do for a living? He's not going to say that to his brother.
Do your TikTok dances somewhere besides the sidelines. Guess what? No more you on the sidelines. Simple as that. I love you guys. You could do all the social media you want. You're not doing it on the sidelines, right? When we have before games and you're dancing on the sidelines and doing your TikTok dances and people are asking me questions about that shit before the game, I can't have that. Go sit your ass in the stands, do your TikTok dances somewhere else. You could be an influencer. It just needs to be limited in the sphere of what touches me.
You want to know who needs to say something to him?
Patrick Mahomes or the dad.
No, his mom and dad.
Yes, the mom and dad. The mom and dad. Yeah, I was about to say, because Mahomes' brother, Jackson Mahomes, I think it's how sad is it that I know Patrick Mahomes' brother's name, who is not even an NFL player. I cannot name any other player or any other player's brother's name that does not play the sport. But I know Jackson Mahomes just because he's always in the headlines. And I don't know the fiance's name, but I mean, like, they've got to stop with that.
Brittney, her name is Brittney.
That's right, Brittney.
She's some road skank.
The one I feel the worst for is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
That is the guy who is the victim of all this.
And here's the thing. He could pull
He's
better
a nice
than her.
guy.
He is. He can pull better than her. She can
They're
go back to the trailer park.
They're high school sweethearts, Grumpy, for the 5th time.
Yeah. She can go back to the trailer park. I think she's from Arkansas.
I have no idea where she's from.
She go back to the trailer park. He gets somebody way better than her. She's crazy. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. They're too big now where it's tough to shut them down. And I don't mean that they're too big by they're too popular. I mean that it's almost like they've become this monster that you can't control anymore. Like when Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 tried to control that big ball of power and he couldn't do it anymore until they drowned it. I think maybe you should drown these two and he'd be better off.
Drown their social media career. Drown their social media career. She was born in Texas. They grew up in Texas together, went to high school in Texas. But yeah, it's just like, yikes. I mean, I feel bad for Patrick Mahomes. He's the one you feel the most sympathetic for. Apex Legend there saying, Grumpy Man, did any Islander in history hit harder than Steve Webb?
Yeah, I think a lot of Islanders hit harder than Steve Webb. Remember, Steve Webb was not a big guy. Rich Pilon hit harder than Steve Webb. They had a lot of guys. I mean, Steve Webb hit hard. They've had a lot of guys in their history who hit really hard.
Grump, question. Do you think Chase Young is the best pass rusher in the league?
Nope. Not even close.
I think I said I was expecting him to take a huge step forward this year. He wound up getting hurt, but even before then, he didn't take a huge step forward.
No. I think Aaron Donald is probably the best pass rusher in the league. But remember, they move him around so they can scheme him in certain spots. But Chase Young is not in his category, I don't think.
No, I think Chase Young can be.
TJ Watt's pretty damn good too.
TJ Watt's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's fantastic, right? Like the Washington Commanders now. It's the Commanders, right? They're no longer the football team. Whatever. I mean, you talk about, the D line can be extremely successful when you have Sweat healthy as well as Chase Young. It's hard to go ahead and game plan or try to chip, and it's tough to leave guys in, additional players to block those two edge rushers. And so, I think that it allows both of them to be more successful, but both of them just had injury-riddled seasons last year.
I've only seen in my whole life maybe 2 pass rushers that you could not scheme to stop.
Yeah, Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald's not one of them.
Yes, he is.
Absolutely not.
It's Lawrence Taylor.
Again, absolutely not. The two of them Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White. Those were the two. You could not scheme to stop them. They were so good. Aaron Donald has been stopped. FYI.
Oh, yeah. He was stopped big time in the Super Bowl. They double and triple teamed him and came away with 2.5 sacks.
Cincinnati, the worst line in the league.
They did a great job.
A good team can scheme to stop anyone. Those two guys were unschemable.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's unschemable. Aaron Donald's unschemable.
No, not true. Not true.
How many D tackles have 10+ sacks every year? How many D tackles have
how good he is as a D tackle? Alan Page was a phenomenal defensive tackle. Phenomenal. Mean Joe Green, phenomenal. But they could be stopped. There's only been 2 players in the history that I've watched, okay? So I'm not going back to the 50s or any of that. Taylor and Reggie White, you could not stop them. They were dominant. They were dominant.
I want you to think about this. Aaron Donald has played 127 games as a D tackle and has 98 career sacks.
Yeah.
As a D tackle, defensive tackle, not the end, D tackle.
I'm not minimizing what he is. I don't think he's the greatest defensive tackle ever. I mean, I'm talking about Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor. Reggie White played all along the line as well. Okay? He was fantastic.
He's creeping up on Lawrence Taylor's all-time sack numbers. You know that, right?
Okay. Lawrence Taylor also dropped in coverage, did a whole lot of things. He wasn't just a pass rusher. Did everything.
Yeah.
Lawrence Taylor's the greatest defensive player I ever saw, period. No one else is actually close to him. No one. No one else is as close to as Lawrence Taylor.
I would recommend that you watch a team called the Los Angeles Rams, Grumpy. You may see a defensive lineman on that team that may look pretty comparable.
Matter of fact, let's watch the 2018 Super Bowl. Aaron Donald was an afterthought. You didn't even hear his name mentioned at all. That's not the case with Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor was the greatest defensive player who ever lived. Period.
Okay.
Period.
Got you, Grumpy.
This is coming from the NFL people when they did the top 100. Top 3 player all time. Brady, Rice, Taylor. Lawrence Taylor, you never saw Lawrence Taylor play week in, week out.
Aaron Donald's going to be one of those. Aaron Donald's going to be one of those players who's going to be a top 10 player in the history of the league.
No, wrong.
All said and done.
Wrong.
He's been an All-Pro, 8 out of the 9 years he's been in the league?
I don't care. He's not as good as Lawrence Taylor. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Not even close.
B-Bean says, is Aaron Rodgers leaving? What do your guys' guts say? Yes, he's absolutely leaving.
I think he's leaving also.
I heard it's Denver. Denver is the front runner, and then on the periphery is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Denver wants him.
Denver's going to get him. Alexander says, TJ looks like he's going to TJ smash on Grump. Grump looks like he wants a Grump smash on TJ. Yeah. Sounds like those Nikes you pump up before you play.
Remember those shoes? TJ, do you know what those shoes were?
You used to be able to put
so it's tighter on your foot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Close up those gaps.
Jackson Mahomes is the biggest walking loser in the world. I think Jackson Mahomes almost, Drew L says, I'm pretty sure he's almost universally hated. I don't know anybody who likes Jackson Mahomes. It's like little kids who watch TikToks. My goodness gracious. And then Apex Legends says, social media influencer, they don't have their brother/husband's best interest. They create a mess for him. Greedy and attention. I was about to say, right? They definitely don't have. They should understand that they have some sort of impact. And maybe Patrick Mahomes is like, oh, they don't have any impact on me. Maybe he's fantastic in that nature. But I would say I think they have some impact on his performance.
Yeah, it's a distraction. It's a distraction.
Yep, exactly.
But here's the thing. If they were interviewing him and people were questioning him, if he showed that talent to be a social media influencer, I know he could be a distraction to the team and he's about himself, but we're just going to ignore that because other teams might say it. We don't want him. But TJ says, that's okay. He's great at the social media stuff. We're going to take him on the team.
No. Not at all what I said. Not at all what I said. Don't conflate the two. Drew L says Patrick Mahomes didn't even invite Jackson to his wedding recently. And Jackson is so entitled he played the victim on social media. Oof.
Okay. I think
you didn't invite your brother to your wedding? Oof. That must not be a good relationship.
I think that he initially told him that he didn't want him doing his social media stuff at the wedding. I think that's why he was not invited to a certain thing. Yeah, there it is. Pump it up.
Pump it up.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Jason Taylor was better than
God, Alexander. Why is he trying to push me today?
Lawrence Taylor is better than Tom Brady, says Tony the Werewolf.
Ooh.
There you go, Grumpy. Better than Tom Brady. Where you stand, Grump, huh?
Lawrence Taylor was a better defensive player than Tom Brady. Absolutely.
Who was the better offensive player? Do you think LT was a better offensive player than Tom Brady?
He'd be a better skill position player.
Okay, gracious.
I remember he told the story when Phil Simms got his number retired for the Giants, and they brought Taylor out there, and of course he's wearing regular. He's wearing like slip-on shoes, no socks, and had a couple of drinks in the back. And they did a halftime ceremony. He's telling him, "Go out for a pass." He's like, "Yeah, keep going, keep going." Like 40 yards downfield, says, and Taylor goes, "Man, I just hope I don't drop this ball." And of course, he caught it like Lawrence Taylor always does. Always came up in the big moment. Did I tell you the story of Lawrence Taylor and how Bill Parcells got the nickname Tuna?
No.
Okay. It's a cute story.
I assume one guy ate a tuna sandwich and he said, "Tuna! Big tuna!"
He was eating tuna sandwiches every day. And Bill Parcells was a big guy, but every day he'd eat tuna sandwiches. And,
tuna is supposed to be a lean meat. That's supposed to be a healthy meat to eat. That's not one that you pack on pounds. You're not saying, "I'm eating tuna to bulk up for the winter."
Exactly. And he's looking at him, he says, "Man, I don't know. He's eating a lot of tuna, but he's kind of a big guy. I don't understand that." One day, he went to, you see on the TV commercials, hey, you go to McDonald's, you get yourself a Big Mac, a large fry, large drink, you get yourself a Yankee cap. And, Parcells called me into his office. And what'd you see? I said, "Damn, 9 Yankee caps in there." So he might have been eating those damn tuna sandwiches in front of everybody, but he was also chowing down at McDonald's every day. So, and it was better the way he did it because his timing and remembrance of the story was just phenomenal. Think about that. Bill Parcells, great head coach.
Absolutely, he was. So now a few QBs. Oh, I think he was not allowed to the bachelor party that he wasn't invited to. Still, your brother's not at your bachelor party. That's something else.
Yeah.
But JT has the most career touchdowns by a defensive lineman. And I'll show you here this. Now, apparently the Saints want to go ahead, and I'm shocked by this. The Saints are interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. They still are the favorite to re-sign Jameis Winston, but they're also interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, can't the Saints realize that, hey, this is a cluster? Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer at QB.
Here's the thing. Jimmy Garoppolo has one more year on his contract.
I know.
So maybe it's okay, let's see how he is before we offer him a second deal. Maybe you give him away a second or third round pick for him, and it kind of solves your quarterback problem for a year.
He sucks. He's awful. It's like, you know what it's like? It was like when they brought in Jameis Winston this offseason. He's not the answer at quarterback, just like you've got here. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the answer at QB. Just like Taysom Hill's not the answer at QB. They don't have a QB. And now here they are going to be pissing away draft capital, not trying to get the QB that they desperately need. That's the issue for the Saints. And that's the issue that a lot of these NFL teams do. It's like the Carolina Panthers, right? Sam Darnold was not the issue, or was not the answer. Now they're apparently, the Carolina Panthers are apparently hot on Mitchell Trubisky. And you're just like, my God, did they not learn? And like Mitchell Trubisky is supposed to be the biggest free agent quarterback this offseason. And right, they're putting up all the teams. Oh, he might be going to the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Washington Commanders or the Denver Broncos, apparently heavily linked there with the Carolina Panthers. And I think to myself, I'm like, has nobody paid attention? They're going to give Mitchell Trubisky probably a 2 or a 3 year deal. And they're going to give him an unbelievable amount of money, and he is not the answer at QB. Don't even waste your time or money going ahead and signing Mitchell Trubisky. He's not the answer.
Maybe they like what they saw when he played for Chicago.
That's funny.
I mean, it's a quarterback-driven league.
I don't get why the guy's like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You don't have a quarterback, you're dead in the water. Period.
It's like when Matt Flynn caught that huge contract because at least you could justify Matt Flynn catching a contract because the few games that Aaron Rodgers was hurt, he came in and threw for like 400 yards a game in like 2 or 3 games. But Mitchell Trubisky has been a miserable quarterback in his NFL career, and he's not the answer. They're going to probably pay him $20 or $25 million a year for like a 2 or 3 year deal, whoever signs Mitch Trubisky. And it's a waste of time and a waste of cap space.
He's not going to get that much money. He's not
You
going
don't
to get
think so?
$25 million. Not going to happen. He doesn't have a track record. Matt Flynn had one good game against the New England Patriots on a Sunday night.
2 good games.
Okay, 2 good games. And Seattle signed with that ridiculous deal. The
Seattle
same year
gave
that
him like $20 million a year.
the
2-year
same
deal,
year
$20
that
million.
it was not $20 million a year. The same year that they drafted Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And Russell
It worked
Wilson
out okay.
same year that they drafted Russell Wilson and Wilson became the starter. It was not $20 million a year. You're talking about, once again, 13 years ago. Contracts were not that high for quarterbacks, certainly not for backups. He got paid, I think it was $10 million per, but not 20 per. That being said, if you don't have a quarterback,
hold on. It looks like 3 years, 20 million throughout.
Yeah. So not even 10 million a year.
I was off.
Yeah. The number quarterback salaries have really gone crazy in the last 5 years, just crazy. But here's the thing. You can sometimes win a Super Bowl like Peyton Manning did his last year with Denver. But remember, Manning couldn't throw the ball anymore, but he was still a terrific field general, and they had that spectacular defense. When was the last time you saw a team win a Super Bowl without at least a pretty good quarterback?
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't
happen. If your defense is fantastic and every other piece on your team is fantastic, the optimal situation is you can make it to the Super Bowl, but in all likelihood, you're not winning.
Yes.
I mean, everything has to align correct. Your players have to be 100% healthy. You have to have the best defense in the league. You've got to have unbelievable running backs. Your offensive line's going to be fantastic. Your wide receivers and tight ends have to be great, and still it's not enough.
I still think Denver is going to go for Rodgers.
Yes.
I have to think it's Rodgers or bust for them. Think about it. That's why they hired Hackett as their coach.
Yes, Nathaniel Hackett. Yep.
I wonder if Nathaniel Hackett is related to Paul Hackett.
Got to hear a comment or got to hear this. The Washington Commanders, and again, now the reason I was posting this up. The Washington Commanders are pretty much rumored in every single quarterback that's available or that has name, like Derek Carr. They're also interested. They're ringing the phone on Derek Carr. They're looking at Mitchell Trubisky. They're in the mix for. They offered multiple first-round picks for Russell Wilson, and it was declined. Seahawks declined that.
Russell Wilson's what, 35 years old now? 34?
I believe so, 34.
Okay. I know quarterbacks are playing longer and longer.
He's 33, I'm sorry.
He's not been great in the last few years. And he's had some talent around him, but he's not been great. And I love Russell Wilson. I think he's a winner. I think he's great for any organization. I just wonder if he's worth multiple first-round picks at this point in time. And I guess the Washington must feel that they're just a quarterback away from what? Making the playoffs?
From a quarterback away from being competitive. They feel their defense is good enough. They feel under Ron Rivera. And think about it. Ron Rivera did bring Cam Newton and that team to the Super Bowl. And again, everything aligned. The stars and the sun and the moon aligned for them that year. But he's done it with, I'd say, less talented quarterbacks. I'd say Russell Wilson, over the entirety of his career, has been a much more successful quarterback than Cam Newton was. Cam Newton had one really good year, but Russell Wilson's had a lot of good years.
True.
But you just see that they're on Derek Carr. Apparently, they're in the mix for Derek Carr. And I'll show you this here. Multiple teams have expressed interest in Derek Carr as well. And I think to myself, I'm like, do you really believe that Derek Carr is an elite quarterback? Do you think Derek Carr puts you over the edge? Derek Carr is another one of those game manager-esque quarterbacks. Multiple teams have expressed interest. One of those teams being the Washington Commanders. They're looking all around the league to trade and upgrade in the quarterback position.
Okay. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, but I think he's right on the next tier, though.
I put him maybe at 14, 15. I mean, he's a middle of the road QB. He's a starter in the NFL. He's not elite. He's not a guy. He's not a team. Not a player that you'd ever build a franchise around. He's a good quarterback. He's a starter. That's what he is. I think he's better than you think. You got to remember, Oakland's or Las Vegas has been kind of in a shambles in recent years. And I think that if he stays with the Raiders, with McDaniels as head coach, I think you're going to see him take off. I don't think that their coordinator system and the multiple coaches and Gruden
going back to the 1990s offense was not conducive to his style of play. I don't think they were that talented at the skill positions. I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl with. Absolutely. If Matt Stafford's good enough, so is Derek Carr. Got to be in the right situation, though.
I put him maybe 14th, 15th best QB in the league. I put Lamar Jackson ahead of him.
Ugh.
I put Russell Wilson ahead of him. I put Kyler Murray ahead of him. Oh, got something coming in the house. I put Aaron Rodgers ahead of him. Kirk Cousins, I think, is slightly ahead of him, but I think Kirk Cousins is on the same plane. You don't think Kirk Cousins is better than
No way. Kirk Cousins has better weapons than he has, and he's still not as good as Derek Carr.
We'll take Kirk Cousins off the list. I put Josh Allen. I put Dak Prescott. I put Joe Burrow ahead of him. I put Patrick Mahomes ahead of him. I put Justin Herbert ahead of him. I put Stafford ahead of him. I guess Brady's no longer playing. I don't know. Maybe you can 11, 12. I'll recant my statement. Maybe 11 or 12 is where I put him.
With a good coach, he's top 10. I don't think he's had a good coach. Look at his numbers. His numbers are good. Surprisingly good. I think people dismiss him because he plays for the Raiders.
I think people dismiss him because even though he passed for a shit ton of yards, he's got 23 touchdowns and 14 picks with 4,800 passing yards. He's got 23 passing touchdowns with 4,800 passing yards.
His weapons are not good. Darren
Waller's one of the top.
Waller was hurt all year last year. All year. You know how I know? He was on my freaking fantasy team. That's how I know.
He's played more than 10 of the 17 games.
But he was hurt. He was hurt all year.
Every single team has injuries. Every team does.
He's the only weapon they have. He's the number one weapon as a tight end. He doesn't have the weapons for the Raiders.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm just saying the Washington Commanders are looking actively to improve on the quarterback position. They believe they are a quarterback away. And then got a comment here. Mystery team is the Giants. I'll tell you, the Giants.
I'm assuming that's for Trubisky. Now, that's interesting.
Yikes.
Because if they are actually interested in him, remember, Daboll worked with him all year last year. I'm just saying their interest in him is intriguing to me if you're a Giants fan.
It's a waste.
He knows what he can and can't do working with him all year. That's
all. It's a waste. Here's the thing. If you think that Willis or Kenny Pickett or Mitch or even Sam Howell, I don't care. I know he didn't have a good year this year. If you think that any of those quarterbacks in this year's draft, or even Matt Corral, if you think any of those quarterbacks in this year's draft could maybe be the quarterback for you, you've got to roll the dice and pick one up. Daniel Jones is not the answer. You can go over who's the answer. Daniel Jones is not. Daniel Jones is one of the bottom third quarterbacks in the NFL. He's in a bottom tier quarterback list. He is not the answer. Simple as that. And if you have a pick like this, you have two picks early in the draft, you could possibly select the quarterback of your choice. And maybe you get a guy who Kenny Pickett, who people are sleeping on now because he's got small hands or double jointed hands, whatever it is, right? You maybe have a chance to get yourself a guy like Willis, who's got a high ceiling. Maybe you have a chance to go ahead and get yourself a guy like Matt Corral. You have your chance at quarterbacks to select. If you feel like any of them are the answers, you have to take them.
You don't draft either one of those guys at 5 or 7. Absolutely not. They're not worth it.
I think Pickett's a guy who's going to be a top 10 pick.
I don't care. I wouldn't pick him in the top 10. He's not that good, especially with those little baby hands he's got. I don't even think he can open up his Gerber's baby food when he needs to eat at night. I don't think he can do that. His hand's too small. I can't get it open, Mommy. It's too tough. I'm just saying.
He had a good.
None of those guys.
He had a good combine.
None of those guys is worth the number 5 or number 7 pick in the draft. If you want to trade down to 15 and pick one, be my guest, but not 5 and 7. No way. And if you can get a veteran, if Brian Daboll has seen enough from Mitchell Trubisky that he thinks he can give competition to Daniel Jones, roll the dice on a 1-year deal. Nothing wrong with that.
Pick the quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky's not the answer. Neither is Daniel Jones. The solution for the Giants is not by saying, hey, we're just going to continue to roll the dice over and over and over again on retread quarterbacks who are not the answer. I'm sorry. Find yourself the solution. Here's the thing about Kenny Pickett. You may not like him. I know you don't like him because I like him, Grump, and you just have to hate everybody I like. I'm a Pittsburgh fan. I watched all the games. In big moments, the moment was never too big for Kenny Pickett. Say that for what it is, right? Some quarterbacks are big moment QBs. Kenny Pickett's a guy who's a big moment quarterback. Simple as that.
I just don't think he's worth the number 5 or number 7 pick. I'm not. That's what they did with Daniel Jones. And I told you.
Hold on. Daniel Jones's stats and production was nowhere near what Kenny Pickett's production was. Not even close.
But you don't push for a guy who's just not that. Here's the thing. If you want to drop down to 15 and select a quarterback, go ahead. You don't reach for a guy in the top 10. You don't.
Quarterbacks always get reached upon in the NFL draft. The thing is, the Giants screwed the pooch last year when there were a million quarterbacks available, and they said, "Oh no, I think Daniel Jones." Gettleman said, "Oh no, Daniel Jones is our guy," and they go ahead and trade back and draft Kadarius Toney instead of trading up or drafting a guy like Mac Jones or drafting a guy like Justin Fields and saying, "We screwed up the first time. I'm going to take ownership, and I screwed up the first time I drafted a QB, and Daniel Jones wasn't the answer. Now we're going to try to go ahead and correct that." They didn't do it.
I 100% agree with you on that, but that's neither here nor there. The only reason, once again, that I say maybe you take a flyer on Trubisky if you're the Giants is that Daboll worked with him all last year. That's the only reason. He knows him inside and out. That's the only reason. I'm not saying what he is, what he can be, what he might not be. All I'm just saying, the only reason I consider it is because Daboll knows him if they're a mystery team. Daboll might say, maybe that they're not the mystery team. And that thing, if he says, well, I know he sucks. There's no way we're looking at him. We don't know. But if they're showing interest in him, that means Daboll's been impressed with him in some way, shape, or form.
Alexander said, yes, Derek Carr is a franchise guy, in my opinion.
I think he's better than you think he is, TJ. I just don't think he's had any weapons, and they've had multiple coordinators and head coaches and every other thing. I just think it's been tough sledding for him with the Raiders.
Scotty
he's a good
Barnes
guy too, so I'm kind of rooting for him now.
Scotty Barnes is literally carrying the Raptors tonight. Scotty Barnes. They haven't surrounded him with the right pieces. Kirk Cousins is not a better quarterback than Derek Carr.
He's not.
Okay. Gruden was abysmal. Sorry. Once the interim head coach stepped in, all of a sudden Josh Jacobs looked like Josh Jacobs again.
Yeah, Gruden was running an antiquated offense, and it didn't work.
Alexander says, I still think Daniel Jones can be a good quarterback in the right situation.
I agree. If he was back at Duke University, I think he could really look good there.
I was about to say, he'd look good in the CFL. He'd look good not in the NFL.
How about the USFL? Maybe look good in the USFL.
Yeah, maybe. He could go ahead and try out all the new rule changes in the USFL, which is getting sued, by the way. Holy shit. I don't think we touched on that. The prior owners of the USFL are suing the new owners of the USFL for infringing upon the name and the original team's names. I was like, well, they might actually have them on that one if they didn't get clearance beforehand to use the name, image, and likeness from the prior owners of the USFL and the prior owners of the team names. They I think have a good case.
I think
not
so.
Being a lawyer, but I think they might. And then Drew L says, I mean, Trubisky is better backup option than Mike Glennon.
I'll 100% agree with that. Mike Glennon's a disaster.
USFL, CFL, Arena Football League. Yeah, all those I think Daniel Jones could be successful in. NFL, not so much. So we were able to talk a little bit about that. Now I want to go shift gears a little bit to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Man, oh man, you want to talk about what could be a awful and horrendous offseason. The Dallas Cowboys offseason is just poised to be awful this year. Apparently, they're likely to release Amari Cooper. Now, this is from Adam Schefter, and they had tried to offer DeMarcus Lawrence a pay cut, and he declined to do so. So what people are speculating is they're going to wait until June the 1st, and then they can go ahead and release him, and they're going to release DeMarcus Lawrence. You're talking about an offseason, you're going to lose Amari Cooper and DeMarcus Lawrence. Yikes. That's not helping your team get better.
Welcome to the world of the salary cap. Right?
Jerry Jones, yikes, 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 buddy.
And I think they have like a $20 million bonus to pay Cooper. That's why they're going to cut him. I don't blame him. I mean, I think Cooper's pretty good, but he's having trouble staying on the field in recent years. I'm not giving him a $20 million bonus. Not happening.
Well, here's the thing. It was unbelievably dumb for them to trade 2 first-round picks for Amari Cooper. It was unbelievably dumb for Jerry Jones to do that. It was unbelievably dumb for Jerry Jones to sign Ezekiel Elliott to that huge contract when he plays a 1A, 1B running back role, right? Jerry Jones, I don't know how many more times you could screw up your situation. Give the reins to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Okay. In defense of Jerry Jones, now, and I'm not a proponent of signing running backs to their second deal. Certainly not for the money. Ezekiel Elliott was not a 1A, 1B situation before he signed that second deal. That was the second year of that of his new deal that happened because he's banged up now, just like with all running backs. You only have so much tread on the tires. Your position takes a beating. He's not a guy who, will pitch the ball out to him wide. He'll run, duck out of the sideline. He's taking punishment every time he runs the ball. And that's why they don't last. So we knew that contract was going to be bad. And eventually he's going to have to get cut. I don't know whenever it's financially feasible for them, but he's not going to be there long-term either.
All I'm going to say here is this, Grump. When you talk about, when did he originally sign that contract extension?
2-3 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago? I don't remember the exact year.
I'm pulling it up. So if you could try to just even opine on that even a little longer. I'm trying to remember because I thought he had a time period when he was out, Grump, during that. He had signed the contract extension in 2019.
Okay. So, like I said, in 2019, I think he was still pretty good. It was 2020 and 2021 that he wasn't that good anymore. Like you see the wear and tear on him. He's a physical running back.
I'm sorry. It took place in 2021. So I'm sorry, it was 2021. I'm looking, his entry level deal was from 2016 until 2020. And then I got a little moth in him here.
Well, you got bugs in your house?
Yeah, I had the door open today for the cat. Yes, in 2021 is when he signed that, or is when it kicked in. I'm not sure when he signed it, but I assume it was like in 2020 or maybe even 2019. I don't remember when he actually signed the extension ahead of time.
Yeah, see, they sign it before that, and it kicks in after. So the first 4 years on your rookie deal, you have the 5th-year option, which obviously they picked up, and then the other contract takes over after that. But when he signed it in 2019, and he was still productive in 2019, really productive.
But now here it is, right? You sign a running back until the contract extends until he's 31 years old. I'm just like, you should have expected that he was not going to be able to continue at the same level he's at. And I mean, he's a guy when 17 games, he ran for 1,002 yards this last year. Yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000-yard rushers. He's averaging 58 yards a game.
Okay. I understand that, but you understand when they're signing Christian McCaffrey, the same thing. He was putting up phenomenal numbers, and then he signs that deal, that extension, and all of a sudden he's hurt all the time. That's just the way the position is. I'm just not a big proponent of signing running backs to their second contract. If somebody else wants to roll dice, I mean, how many guys does it pan out for in today's NFL?
A handful. Adrian Peterson's it works out for. Guys who avoid contact, like your LaShawn McCoys, it worked out for. Not guys who are physical in between the tackle runners. I mean, Adrian Peterson was the one that was the physical in between the tackles runner that could actually, who played well after that initial rookie deal. But those guys who take a beating, I mean, look at the Todd Gurleys. For every single Adrian Peterson, there's about 5 or 6 Todd Gurleys that just are like, okay, once they sign that, once their rookie contract's over, they're pretty much cashed.
Look at Kamara with the Saints.
Alvin Kamara is still good.
Yeah, okay, but last year he was hurt quite a bit. He signed the extension. All of a sudden, he's getting hurt.
Look at your Christian McCaffrey's fantastic talent, but now he's injured all the time.
That's what I mean, and that's just the fate of the position. Once you start getting hurt, you're not getting healthier the more you run the ball. So maybe they're going to come to regret that Kamara deal. But at the time, you're like, yeah, you got to sign Kamara back. He's like 60% of our offense. That's why they do it. And the same thing with McCaffrey. He was like 60-65% of their offense.
It's as dumb as when they traded. They gave up 2 first-round picks, I think, in 2019 for Amari Cooper, and now 3 years later, right, we're releasing him from his contract. I don't know. That's what I mean by poor management of assets. That's why he should not be in charge.
Yeah, but if you think that your team is really close to winning, you got to roll the dice, because the time when, where you have the right contract status, you have your quarterback on his rookie deal, you got, a whole bunch of guys under contract, your line is start all young and getting better, best line in the league. You got to roll the dice and try to win it then, because you're going to age out and then you got to rebuild again. The NFL, there's so much instability in players from year to year on each team that it's tough. That's why nobody repeats.
Players are, when you trade for players that are currently playing, usually you get them on I'm talking about, you can usually get them for a king's ransom. It's really cheap. You can get a really productive NFL player for 3rd or 4th or even a 5th round pick, depending on what their age and their status is. And I'm like, I understand that Amari Cooper was traded when he was young, so maybe that's why he deserved the 2 first-round picks or got the 2 first-round picks. But if you're not trading for a QB, you should never be giving up first-round picks for players, especially a position player like a wideout. I don't know. You just look at the mistakes, right? And you can look back with hindsight on 2020 and say, yeah, that was a real bad mistake. You should not have the ability and control to make those selections and mistakes anymore. I know you own the team, but maybe it's time for the betterment of the team for you to step aside.
He's a GM as well.
I know. That's why I said he makes those decisions. He's the owner and the general manager. Maybe you should step aside and no longer be the general manager.
Okay. So the billionaire whose ego is as big as the state of Texas and half of Mexico as well, he's going to say, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to hand it off to somebody else. Would you want to work for him?
When's the last time they've won? They haven't won a damn Super Bowl in 1980 or 84, 94?
1994, I think.
VHS was the back then. They haven't won a Super Bowl since VHS days.
I don't know.
Maybe you cannot do it.
I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is the chances of that happening are not great.
He should be able to have ideally, right? He should have some sort of recognition, and he should say, shit, we're not winning.
Hey, Stephen Jones, my son, do you want to be the new GM? That's about the only thing you might get. You think he's going to hand over control of the team to somebody else? He thinks he knows better than everybody else. That's why Jimmy Johnson wasn't there anymore. He thought he knew more than Jimmy Johnson. Then what happens? He hires Barry Switzer and he wins another Super Bowl. So that only emboldens him. Well, shit, I know what I'm doing. Jimmy Johnson wasn't anything. I hired 10-year retired Barry Switzer and we won a Super Bowl with him.
It had nothing to do with Troy Aikman and nothing to do with Dorsett and nothing to do with every single fantastic.
Dorsett wasn't there. Dorsett wasn't there.
Okay.
Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. Yeah. Well, but yeah, of course they were all Jimmy Johnson's players, but to him, he won the Super Bowl as GM. Do you understand? He brought in Barry Switzer and was my genius. I got rid of Jimmy Johnson, was getting too big for his britches. I bring a guy in and we win a Super Bowl. It's about me. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that's probably his mindset. That's all. Now, what about Aaron Donald, right? He was thinking about retiring. Now he's going to sign maybe an extension to make him the highest paid player and defensive player in the league. How old is he now? 31?
No, he's going to be 29, 28.
He's been in the league for how many years? I want to say he's in his 30s.
He's 30.
Okay. He's looking like
he'll be 31 at the start of next season.
So he's looking for a 6-7 year deal. Do you think he's worth the money they're going to give him? The answer is no.
The front end, no, probably not. Maybe to the front end, he'll be good. Towards the back end, absolutely not.
But that's why teams do it. Why? Hey, for us to repeat, we got to have Aaron Donald. We know he wants more money. He doesn't want to retire. He just wants more money. Thank you. Sean McVay doesn't want to retire. He just wants more money. That's what it always comes down to. When they say they want to retire, they want more money. That's what it is. Or they want to go somewhere else.
Alexander said, I sent you guys fan fights top 10. It was like 20 minutes long. Sorry, Alexander, we can't. It's like 20 minutes. We can't do it. It was like a whole bunch of like other people commenting over it too. So we can't do them commenting over us commenting. It's tough to clip it. I'll have to try to find just like, I don't know. It's tough. It was like 20-minute long clip. And
we
I
can
had
maybe mute it for next time. Mute their sound and then us do our play-by-play, which is infinitely better.
Yeah. And then we got a comment here, or I wanted to talk about this now. We haven't talked a lot of soccer news in a long time, but now this is something that has, oh, don't be sorry, Alexander. Don't be sorry. I appreciate it.
We
We'll
love
get
Alexander. We love
absolutely.
Alexander.
We love everybody
You
on the
know,
show. Absolutely.
He's got that crazy uncle, and he likes the Dolphins.
I want to show you now some soccer news. Now, this is what's happening and been popping up across the soccer sphere. Cristiano Ronaldo was had a knock today and was injured. Apparently, was unable to play against Man City. Man United was playing Man City. He was apparently unhealthy, unable to play. That being said, apparently he was healthy and he was just scratched from the lineup. And Ragnick just said, "Oh yeah, he's injured and banged up, and he's been doing this a few times beforehand." Somebody made a comment saying that he was opining that Cristiano Ronaldo was healthy and thinking that, hey, it looks like Ragnick is just benching him because he does not want to play him and doesn't want his tactics and his lineup to be questioned when he leaves Ronaldo out, and that's why he's marking him as injured. And Cristiano Ronaldo's sister liked the comment. I was like, oh, I assume Cristiano Ronaldo's sister maybe has a little bit of maybe some knowledge on whether Cristiano Ronaldo is healthy or not. And I assume when he plays this week as well, and he's back to fine and playing, I assume that he's not really banged up. But you look at that, right? PSG's won every single match this season without Messi. Manchester United have not won a single league game this season without Cristiano Ronaldo.
True.
Not one.
True.
And Roy Keane was also saying that it looks like Ragnick is just leaving him out of the lineup, and it's not to do with the knock. He just does not want to play him.
Here's the thing. Ragnick is a shitty coach.
Awful.
He'll be gone after this year. I told you when there was, remember they were thinking he was going to Man City, and at the last minute, Alex Ferguson and everybody calls him, says you got to go to Man United. You can't go to Man City. He caved to the pressure, went to Man United. And what did I tell you? As soon as that happened,
you said it was a big mistake, and you're right.
Big mistake.
I thought maybe it would work out, and it looks like it's a huge mistake.
And it's not because of Cristiano Ronaldo, who admittedly is not the same player he was 2 or 3 years ago. He's 37 years old. Okay. He is so far the best player on that team. If you actually watch the games and the skill he has compared to the circus clowns that are running around out there, it's not even funny. And here's the thing. They have no midfield and they have no defense. That's not what Cristiano Ronaldo is. Ragnick suffers from the problem that a lot of these coaches from smaller teams in other leagues have. They think, okay, we got all these 21-year-olds. We're going to run around pressing everybody high up the pitch. We're going to be able to rush back, play team defense. To be a good coach with great players on really big teams, you have to be able to manage and massage egos. He's not capable of doing that. He's going to lose his spot. Supposedly, Cristiano Ronaldo has a problem with the inept play of Harry Maguire on the defensive back.
Did you see what Harry Maguire did today during the game? And freaking David De Gea yelled at him. So Harry Maguire, as the ball was coming through, he let the ball go in between his legs, rolling in between his legs. De Gea made a save. The ball was rolling to Harry Maguire. He didn't kick the ball out of bounds, or he didn't kick it through the back line and to let it go to a corner or even let it be a throw-in. He spreads his legs apart to let it go in between his legs as the ball's in the box. And the Man City player picks it up and rifles it home because Harry Maguire decides not to go ahead and take the ball and kick it out. I'm just like, what in the hell is Harry Maguire doing? And Ragnick just continually wants to play him, Grump.
Yeah, he's got a love affair with that guy. He sucks. He's slow. Harry is a good name for him. You think of the name Harry, do you think of speed? I don't. I think of, a guy sitting down smoking a pipe, not able to do anything.
Oh my God.
That's what I think of. That's what I think of Harry Maguire. By the way, with Cristiano out of the lineup against Man City, how'd that game go?
They got destroyed 4-1. It was bad. I tried to watch the game. I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be close. It was 4-1. And I mean, it was bad as could possibly be imagined.
Yeah, because guess what?
Phil Foden looked really good.
Yeah. Here's the thing. They're not a good team. They're poorly constructed. They suck, in essence. They need a real big-time coach there. And here's the thing. Is Cristiano Ronaldo able to take a team like, I don't know, name any lower level team and turn them into league winners? No, he's not. He's not that good anymore. But if on a good team in the right circumstance, he can take a team that's really good and put them over the top and win Champions League or certainly win league title without a doubt.
I was about to say he's not going to be a guy that single-handedly makes you unbelievable. This is what I'm talking about right here, Grump, and I'll make sure this is muted. So Lindelof makes a hideous challenge. Foden here, the ball starts rolling back.
Oh.
Instead of kicking the ball out when there's no pressure right here, he says, "Let me go ahead and open my legs up. I don't want to go ahead and get this. Hey, let's just roll right here," and boom, it gets pounded right into the net. It gets crossed, it gets deflected, and I think Rio Mahrez goes ahead and pounds that one in the net. I'm just like, what the hell is Maguire thinking? And De Gea was yelling at Maguire. I just think to myself, my God, how bad. I just like the quality is just not there for Maguire. He's hideous.
He's terrible. Luke Shaw on the other side, terrible.
He was out. He didn't play today.
It doesn't matter. He's the regular starter for that team too. They're both side by side and they both blow. Blow pop emoji. Give the blow pop emoji.
Blow me. Alexander says, apparently I think that they may be coming to the United States. I don't know if Cristiano's ever coming to the United States.
I think Messi will.
You think so?
I'd love to see Cristiano come to the United States. I'd
love to see Cristiano and Messi play on the same PSG team with Ponch gone. They said, by the way, Ponch is not leaving. They confirmed. PSG said there's no way that Ponch is leaving. He's going to be our manager next year no matter what happens.
Well, we'll see. They play Real Madrid this week. If Real beats them to advance, he could be gone by the weekend.
I was about to say, right. They have a 1 goal. They played the game at Paris Saint-Germain. They scored 1 goal, so they're up 1-0 in the series. Now they have got to travel to Real. They've got to travel to the Bernabeu. And again, if Real scores, 2 on them, Real advances. So
yeah, here's the thing: Real's not that good this year. They need more firepower up front. They were totally dominated. 1-0 did not represent how badly they were outplayed at PSG.
It was an away match, though.
Yeah, but they were terrible. There's
home field advantage means a lot in soccer.
Yeah, and they are going to have a full house at Santiago Bernabeu on Wednesday. The big news is Mbappe is probably going to go to Real Madrid after this season.
Holland apparently has been they're hot after Holland too. Could you imagine both Kylian Mbappe and Holland on the same team? Holy crap!
They'll be the team to beat for a decade.
And Vinicius is out wide. He's just, you talk about, right? You play Mbappe out wide, Holland and strike. My God, unbelievable.
Probably 3 of the best 5 players under 25 in the league, in the world. I'm sorry, not the league, the world.
I was going to say, Rafa Benitez would not be there.
No, right now their manager is why can I not remember his freaking name? He was with them when they won the 11th Champions League Cup. Carlo Ancelotti.
I'm sorry, won't be there. Rafa Benitez was left a long time ago, and I think he recently got canned by Everton anyway.
He did.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about Benitez. But yeah, I'll tell you. Carlo Ancelotti, I don't think will be the manager.
He's a good coach. He's a really good coach. Really good. Really good. Don't sell him short. Now he could be gone because they want a flashy name. They've always wanted Pochettino. Always.
Ponch is not great.
Well, they've had an infatuation with him.
Alexander says, if there's anyone who can convince him or convince them to come, it's David Beckham to the U.S.
I want to say I think Cristiano Ronaldo winning means more to him than it means to Messi.
Yes.
And Sammy Khedira did an interview. He played with Ronaldo when he was with Real and when he was with Juventus at the end of his time there. And he said that how he saw 2 different Cristianos. He's always been a selfish player. What he means by selfish is the hunger to score goals. But when he was with Juventus, he was much more relaxed and calm, and it was more about him trying to impress these things upon teammates. And that's what he raises the level.
He's going to be a good manager.
Yeah. He raises the level of the players around him because they look at his level of professionalism. Losing, he was like Jordan that way, or like Brady. The greats are all the same. they'd have little tournaments. Hey, is it 100 euros or a bottle of wine? And it's about winning. He got pissed if they lose in some little, pickup match. Who scores first goal? He get pissed if they lose. That's how much winning means to him. That's what makes him so great.
Absolutely, Grumpy. We're here at the end of the podcast today. What do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I just want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens. And we love you guys. We really do. And without you, there is no podcast. So.
Absolutely. And this is for certain. Thank you so much, guys, always for tuning in and supporting this podcast and the show. We love just talking in a free environment, just talking everything sports, talking about what you guys think and what you've heard out there, and just having it in a free-wielding environment. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Grumpy Old Man, for your time as always.
My pleasure.
But I say you're missing the my pleasure part.
I
Grumpy.
know it. I was reading a comment. I was reading a comment at the end. That's all.
Thank you, guys. Without you, there's nothing. Thank you, Alexander. We appreciate it. And great show. Thank you, Alexander, for always tuning in. Thanks, guys. We'll be with you here this upcoming Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.